Hey, my name is Sean. Welcome to Echoes in Eternity Bourbon. You ever been put on a budget?
A great disturbance in the force, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror.
So, I would say that I have not been very good at keeping my budget this year. That being said, I've always wanted to kind of put out something to say, look, if I was my 22-year-old, 24-year-old self, times were a lot tighter. What are the things that I would want to put on a bar? And there are some awesome pours out there for that aren't very expensive. I mean, some, and I wanted to give some things that maybe aren't on everyone's cusp that they're gonna holler out on. You're gonna get Wild Turkey 101. You're gonna get Evan Williams Bottle and Bond. You're gonna get a Buffalo Trace, which is harder to find, but a reasonable price if you have an area that frequently has it. And there's some other great ones out there that you potentially get for a good price. You look at the Benchmark series stuff, and a lot of people have talked about those, and rightly so. Very good products. I think that they're fantastic. Um, and I think they're great value. But then I thought to myself, let me think outside that box a little bit. Of course, those are something you'd want to get on your shelf, especially if you want a budget and you want to have some different interesting pours. But let me maybe offer some variables that maybe aren't talked about a lot. And maybe build yourself a bar that kind of has stuff that you can have neat, some stuff that you can have as some mixers, some stuff that maybe offers a little different complexity. And these are just my thoughts, and these are tailored, of course, to things that I found that I've liked over a period of time. And what I said is, okay, let's set this budget bar at $250, and let's not try not to exceed that. And whether it's in 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, let's see if we can add these to a budget bar. Because the younger me right then money was pretty tight. And so it takes a while sometimes to build up a nice bar, but you shouldn't outspend your means. So I try to find things that, if I'm at that age group, that I could say, okay, maybe I can buy one of these every few weeks, or maybe I could buy one of these every month, or maybe every couple of months. And then over a period of time, you've developed a bar that has some complexity, that has some different variability to it, and then it can open up maybe other people's palates to stuff. Now, I'll tell you, the first one on here is probably something that you've seen quite a bit. And it's probably been mentioned on other channels and stuff too. But for me, it was kind of like that first love bourbon. And I just can't get away from it. So much so that I couldn't find my open bottle, which is probably downstairs because I'm in the process of moving a lot of stuff. But I found my backup bottle, which is really important. And that first bottle is going to be Elijah Craig Small Batch. To me, Elijah Craig Small Batch, it's a Heaven Hill product. It's 94 proof. For me, it's right in the wheelhouse of things that I like. Uh, it's sweet. It's got some different complexities to it. It's got some different, maybe some summer fruit notes, some peach and things to it as well. Got some cinnamon to it. Got the caramel, the vanilla. This is a bottle that really kind of opened me up and more into bourbon. As you're younger, you're probably, Jack Daniels or some of the Jim Beam stuff, and you probably got really sick once or twice or three times or more. And you said, okay, I'm gonna stay away from that junk for a while, or I'm just gonna have a bourbon and coke. But then, as you maybe said, let me go back and try this again. This was the one that kind of really became my daily drinker, and one that I really truly enjoyed. It's a Heaven Hill product. I wrote down some notes. I think I spent $26 on this bottle. Um, I thought for a value for something that I enjoy, and you don't have to, I don't have to drink every day, but if it's something that I'm going to have a consistent pour with, I really like the Elijah Craig Small Batch. For $26, for me, it's a great way to start off a bargain bourbon bar. The next bottle on the list, Let's see what we got here. So I know I said I wasn't going to do Wild Turkey 101, but I didn't say I wasn't going to do Wild Turkey 101 rye. This is a barely legal rye. It's 51% rye. It's it's very sweet for a rye. It's got some complexity to it. So you get some of the sweet to it. So you're getting some of the caramels and stuff, but you get some mints, you get some licorice. You're getting a little bit of the earthiness that comes with a rye. It's 101 proof. I got this for $20 at a class 6, and I was like, and what this offers is it offers something you can sip on, but it also offers something if you're making mixed drinks for people, old fashioned. This is a fantastic bottle for a value, for a great pour for old fashions. That's just my opinion on things. And I tend to like things sweeter, whether it's a rye or a whiskey or a bourbon. I tend to like things sweeter. I think this is a phenomenal product at the price point. I think it's something that when you have company over and you're doing different types of drinks, it'll give you enough punch where people will enjoy it, and not overpower them, but it also lends to the drinks in a lot of different ways because it's not a true heavy rye where you get a lot of spice. It just gives you enough of that spice and then some of the sugars and some of the other things to kind of accentuate your mixed drink. So Wild Turkey 101 Rye is my second bottle on this list. And I ended up, I'll let you see how many I ended up with at the end there. But I ended up with, I thought, a decent amount of bottles for $250. And with the 101 rye, I thought, I don't think I've seen a lot of people talk about that. And with it being a barely legal rye, it offers a lot for someone that's maybe new getting into bourbon and starting their own bar, and it won't break the bank on that. The next one, oh, one of my absolute favorites, and I know that this is localized and you may not have it in your area. So the Southern Rye from 13th Colony, as you can see, I enjoy it quite a bit. This is a heavy rye mash bill. This is, I think, 95 or 96% rye, but there is a sweetness to this rye, and it's just something about the way that Georgia heat in America's Georgia, where 13th Colony's at, just gets that whiskey to move in and out of that barrel, that it just pulls so many sugars in there. So this is not your typical rye where you're just getting a lot of spice and you're getting, maybe that earthy, grassy taste type to it. But this is a very sweet rye, even at a 95, 96% mash bill. It's got a great mouth feel to it. And for my profile, tons of sugars. I think it's only 90 proof, which is probably 95 proof, which may be one of the lighter ones on here. So the Elijah Craig's probably going to win that at 94. But at 95 proof, it doesn't drink 95 proof, so it drinks under proof. And I tend to like my proofs a little bit higher. But first getting into bourbon, you kind of ramp up to get to those things. Fell in love with this. This is a local kind of a thing. You may be able to find some things on Seal Box or Frubat or something like that. But if you're in the Georgia area and in some of the surrounding states, you'll find this 13th Colony. And I've absolutely fallen in love with the distillery and the products that they have out. But for my beginning bourbon bar, this is a rye that I would have to have. Phenomenal taste. It comes in at, I think, about $35 is what I had on this. Yeah. So it is a little bit more expensive than the first two bottles. Love the bottle shape and design on top of it too. It'll remind you of, the birthday bourbon bottle, which 13th Colony actually has the patent on this bottle, which is really cool. So it makes also, if you ever decide to do an infinity bottle after you finish this or left a little bit in the bottom, it makes a great bottle for an infinity bottle. But the product, the juice inside the bottle, outstanding. Like I said, I like sweet things. This has enough sugars to it, enough caramels to it, got enough different complexities to it. You get the rye, but it doesn't burn you up like a traditional rye. So absolutely love 13th Colony Southern Rye. The next one here is one that I think that you're starting to see it in more and more areas. It may not have got as far west, but it is more on the East Coast. And I'm finding this more and more. And this is a bottle that I really, really like. And this is Bowman Brothers Small Batch. Bowman Brothers Small Batch is coming in at, yep, this is our lightest one, 90 proof. And this is Buffalo Trace Mash Bill 2. And they take this to Virginia, they triple distill it there, and they do their magic there. And to me, this kind of reminds me of I would say a lighter version of Elmer T. Lee, which is very hard to find a lot of places. But this coming in is, I think, what, $32 on this? $32 on the small batch. Um, what do I got for my notes on here? It's sweet, fruity, get some toffee on there. It's an outstanding pour. And if you go up even a little bit higher into their single barrel, it gets even better. So this is, if you can't find that Buffalo Trace product that you like, or maybe that Elmer T. Lee, which is very elusive and can get very expensive. If you have an opportunity for some Bowman Brothers small batch, this would be something that I would suggest. Like I said, it fits in my profile and things that I like, but it's also got a mash bill that I'm very comfortable with, and I really like Buffalo Trace products. But this is something that you may not realize it's part of Sazerac and Buffalo Trace mash bill, but it's just done in Virginia and triple distilled. So it offers something maybe to your bar that you maybe didn't realize that, hey, this will give me some of those tasting notes that I get in some of the Buffalo Trace products at a reasonable price that's maybe more accessible. Next one is one that I have to thank my brother-in-law for. So, we were at the Lake House 4th of July, and I'd had a sample of this before, and it had been some time, but he, sent 3 samples with my sister-in-law. And so, we're going through the samples, and the second sample was really kind of unfair because he's like, "What do you think of this?" She hands it to me. He's like, "Tell me what you think of this." So I'm going through, and I think this is about this proof. I'm thinking this is about this, and I'm like, "This is Buffalo Trace, but I can't peg it." And I said, "Is this a Buffalo Trace such and such, or is this such and such?" And she's like, "No, that's an infinity bottle." I'm like, "Come on, man, Dwayne, how am I going to figure out an infinity bottle?" But the third sample, I really liked. I mean, I pegged the proof right off the bat. I'm like, this is 100 proof. I really like the sugars to it. It may not be super complex, but it's something that I really enjoy. I like the mouthfeel on it. And that was this bottle here, Old Tub Bottle and Bond. It's 100 proofer. It's at least 4 years old. It's uncut. It's unfiltered. I think it was $23. Yeah, so it was $23. Had about a medium finish to it. Not super complex, but for $23, I really enjoyed the pour. And I thought, for 100 proofer, it's got some good sugars to it for me. It's got good mouthfeel. It's got a medium finish. I thought this is something that I could have on a budget bar that I would be confident to give to somebody and that they would enjoy. And it's not going to necessarily burn them up or kill my budget. So if you have an opportunity and you see the Old Tub for $23, it's a good purchase in my opinion. I thought it's got good flavors to it, and I definitely specifically like that. It is not has not been filtered, so you kind of get some of those fatty acids and things like that, which is the point of having it unfiltered. Generally, the bottlers, they'll go ahead when they have these proof points and they'll go ahead and filter them to take out some of the different fatty acids, because when the bourbon gets colder, you'll see that collection of white clump of stuff. It's just ethanol and alcohol fats basically, but it offers a different flavor, and it offers, well, I'd say more of a different mouthfeel, kind of the fatty acids in there. But so fifth on the list, or not in pecking order, but just happens to be fifth on the list, is Old Tub. Definitely enjoyed the Old Tub, and this is actually it's a Jim Beam product. And if you like Bookers, and I tend to like Bookers, I know that they're probably overpriced, but I tend to like Bookers. I thought that this was kind of a cheap version of a Bookers, maybe a real cheap version of the Bookers, not the complexity, not the age, and things like that. But for some of the different tasting notes and things that I got off of it in a very simplified form, Old Tub definitely like. So the next one, I said, okay, we've got some ryes, we've got some bourbons on there. Some of them are a little sweeter, some of them have a little cinnamon, some of them have a little bit of the fruit flavors. Some of it has, they're not heavy on the rye spice. I said, what do I want to add to a bar to keep under budget but offer something different? And I said, let's go with this one right here. And this is Davies County's Toasted Barrel. Davies County's, it comes in at 96 proof. It's a Lux Row product. I had a sample and fell in love with it, and I said, I'm going to have to get a bottle. As you see, I haven't cracked this bottle. I tend to collect a lot more than I drink, which seems to be a bad problem. But someone told me about an app that I can use to kind of track all my stuff, which I'll probably have to get that because I need to really understand what I have sometimes. But I really enjoyed this bottle. I think this was suggested to me by the Bourbon Baroness. If you don't know her Instagram, check out her Instagram. She does, what does she do? She does Toasted Tuesdays. And I think this might have been one of her Toasted Tuesdays, which inspired me to find someone that had some, try it out, which is something I would suggest to you as well. If you have a bourbon community, and you have friends that maybe have some bottles you haven't tried, see about trading out some samples with them so you can get into a bottle that maybe you don't know if you want to purchase yet. But I enjoyed it enough, I went and purchased it, and this is one of the more expensive bottles in my budget, and this was $45. But it added a different profile. It is sweet, but it offers kind of that toasted notes to it too, but not overpowering on the oak. And what it did now is I've added a toasted to my bar, and there's some really good toasted stuff out there for not, it's not super expensive. The Woodford Double Oaked is fantastic. It's about 55, $60. This was a little bit different option, and it was at a better price point, and maybe not as well known. So you may have something you can offer somebody that they may not know about or have heard about, and you just say, okay, try this out, see what you think. So this was the sixth bottle on my list. I have one more bottle, and this one, it should be. I see this a lot, and I say that because I've got six different of these. But I find this bottle a lot, and I think it's a very good price point for what you're getting for the bottle. Now, it's all relative. What are you getting for the bottle? I like my bourbons with a little more punch to them. I tend to like that 110 to 125 proof point. This one kind of falls right in my wheelhouse. And this last one is a Knob Creek. The Knob Creek single barrel store picks are some of my favorites. This bottle was $46. But what you get is, and they're always consistent in the proof point on these when they do these, they get them to 120. So when you find the Knob Creek 120 proof single barrel store picks, and I find a lot of them in my area, very good product. There is some variability from barrel to barrel, which is when you find one that you really like, you might want to get a backup because, it's not going to be around forever. But it gives me a higher proof point. It gives me something that maybe would be a weekend or a special pour on a budget bar that I can sit back and I can just sip on and relax during a game. Or if I was making a cocktail and I really wanted some punch to it, I could throw it in there. But I generally find these as a neat sipper or maybe something on the rocks. I traditionally do my bourbons neat. Now, if something's just doesn't, if it's something maybe that's a little bit too loud or too much ethanol or something, maybe I may add a drop or two of water to it to open it up a little bit, and that may help. But I've really found these that I truly, truly like. So what I did here is I gave 7 different bottles, and I say I want to have a budget bar of under $250, and I want to kind of go maybe off the beaten path on some of the other bottles, great bottles that are available out there. And what this did is it put me at $227. And you figure, well, taxes on top of that, it's going to put me right at that $250 mark. So I'm very happy if I was to start a bourbon bar, if I was in my 20s, and I said, okay, I've already got, maybe got the Wild Turkey 101, or I've got some of the benchmarks, or I've got, maybe the Jack Daniel's Bottle and Bond, or something like that, but I wanted to add some different things that maybe people aren't drinking that are enjoyable, these would be the ones that I would consider. Now, remember, your palate is going to be different than mine. My palate likes every one of these, and I'm not I would not be ashamed to serve any of these to anybody, and I think that they would really enjoy the pours. Like I said, I think that they offer enough that you're not breaking the bank, and you're getting somebody a very nice pour. So all that being said, let me know some of the bottles that aren't maybe mainstream that you see that I'd need to hunt and check out. That would be a good budget friendly bourbon for somebody that's maybe starting their own bar. If everything burned up tomorrow in here and I had to start over, and God bless family was okay, and I said, I've got to start really slow, these would be some of the things that I would look for. But that being said, I appreciate your time. I hope you found something useful out of it. If not, flame me up in the comments and tell me where I messed up. But I truly appreciate you all. You guys have grown the channel tremendously. This was something that I wanted to try and maybe offer some different things to the community. You all have an amazing day. Thank you. So one thing I absolutely failed on was getting you good video of the actual bottles. First one here is the Elijah Craig Small Batch, then the Wild Turkey 101 Rye, then the 13th Colony Southern Rye Whiskey, the Bowman Brothers Small Batch, the Old Tub Bottle and Bond, the Davies Counties, this is the Toasted, and then the Knob Creek Store Pick Single Barrel. I thought these were a great opportunity for a bourbon budget bar. Y'all have an amazing day.